We are calling the Public Works meeting to order. Welcome back, everyone. This is great. We got through this pandemic, and I just want to say one thing. Dr. Whalen did a great job guiding us through, and it's wonderful that we made it through. And let's move on. Do I approve the previous minutes? Do I have a motion to?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The Mr. Belber is the first. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Before I continue, I'd like to go through call a roll. Mr. Bruschi, our chairman, is excused. Mr. Bergdorf? Here. Mr. Cleary? Mr. Fine? Mr. Pearl? Mr. Peter?
Here, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Okay. So we have 5. Mr. Belber, authorize a lease agreement with Hoffman Car Wash to TU Center.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, this is a replacement of a 50% partner in that suite. MVP was in the suite before. They moved into Suite 17, which was open. They were on the first to move list. So they moved over to 17. That open space in 13, we went to our waiting list. Hoffman's Car Wash was first on the list. They were very quick to take it. And this is a good company in the area. They've been a good sponsor of other things. And we asked for approval to proceed and accept their 3-year deal.
I'll make that motion. I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Call the roll.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anything else, right? Unanimous. Okay.
I don't have an agenda in front of me, so I'm thinking that you're probably going to want to review of finances.
Yes, if you could do that, please.
Okay. So through the month of May, we are, year to date, we are ahead of budget, but obviously it's a rough budget because of the pandemic and COVID. Originally, when we put the budget together, we thought that we'd start having events by April 1st. Nobody knew that this was going to go as long as it did. In fact, I remember back when we lost the NCAA basketball in March, we were 5 days away when everything got shut down, and everybody thought, well, we'll be back open by July of 2020. And then it became, we'll be open by September, and then it was November, and then it was March. Nobody knew how long this pandemic was going to keep our industry down. It wasn't until just the last week that the governor removed all restrictions and allowed us to go back to 100%. We were at 10% for NCAA hockey back in March. We got to 25% for arena football. Arena football, I can't say enough about the owner. He had 5 weeks to be able to put together a new coach, a new team, and he did so, and he's in first place in the league, and with 100% capacity, we hope that, and now without the testing requirement, which was the big problem for arena football. All the families were having a hard time paying the $40 for the test and then paying for the ticket, and it caused a real reduction in the attendance for arena football. So as of July 19th for the next game, we're hoping that attendance is going to jump up. They did take a loss this past week, unfortunately. You may have seen.
I saw that. High-scoring game.
Not sure exactly why that was. You know, I'm sure they're going to come back and be a lot more into winning the game the next time. But going back to the finances, we were thinking that it was going to be about a $96,000 loss for the original budget year. It's probably going to end up closer to $850,000 or so as a loss because of not having events really until meaningful events until July, August. Michael Bublé is going to happen on August 25th.
Oh, good.
So that'll be our big first concert at 100%. There are many other concerts that are now being booked. WWE is coming in September. We've got Monster Trucks in September. We have major concerts that are popping on the schedule now for the end of this year and into 2022. I am extremely happy with what it looks like for 2022. As long as we don't have any major changes or backward trends on the pandemic, and if things continue, I think we're going to have a great year in 2022. Unfortunately, from a cash flow standpoint, it's very difficult right now. So I'm sorry that the county's in a position that it is as far as helping us to get past these next couple of months. But once we get to a point, and I will say this, we've also reactivated all of our contracts for advertising and suites as of July 1st. So those dollars will be starting to flow back through, and cash flow will be an easier thing for us from about September on. But for the next couple of months, it's going to be a little bit of a strain for us and probably for the county to help us get through it. But I think better days are ahead and probably not that far away.
Let's hope so. Yes, Mr. Bergdorf.
Bob, is there any money out there, federal grant money, anything for the, performing arts, venues, et cetera, that there's any potential for you to apply for?
So we did apply, and we looked at all the different sources, and there's several different sources that are out there. However, with a municipally owned building, number one, and number two, with a company the size of ours, which has well over the threshold of what the number of employees is that they would grant money to, we just were not in a position to be able to get funding from any source, which is very difficult for the county to be in this position. I will say that there are probably 85 to 90% of the buildings across the country that are in exactly the same scenario. Most of them are municipally owned and have not been able to get, especially on the arena side, have not been able to get funding. Some of the theaters have been able to do so, but that's through a Save Our Stages grant, and that's just not something that the arenas are able to get.
Mr. Peter.
Just a comment. Getting up and running from this is going to be the biggest obstacle, and I think you guys, as well as the county, have done a really good job in being ready to do this, because I think people are hungry for the experience of being able to, for normalcy and stuff, and I know that the rescheduling is going to be tough, and you're going to have to go from 0 to 60. So I think
that's where we're at right now.
And I think if the only complaint really at this point is it's going to be a little while before we start seeing the profit margins come in. I think, getting you guys up and running is going to help the rest of the county through sales tax, hotel reservations, restaurants, and things like that. So can't compliment your team enough for being ready to engage on this, because I think it's going to be an economic engine for the area.
Thank you. I'd like to echo what you said about the staff, because many of the staff members worked through the pandemic and were making sure the building was there for Dr. Whalen and for National Guard to get the food out. And so the limited staff that we did have really worked hard to make sure that the services were able to be provided. And those same people are the ones that are going to the 60 miles an hour from 0 to make sure that we've got everything ready for the next shows coming in. I agree with the hotel room nights and with the sales tax increases that's going to take place. Some of the shows that I've booked in the end of this year and into next year are going to have major room nights, and that's going to bring back a big economic stimulus for downtown businesses especially, and certainly for the county.
Mr. Reinhardt.
Just a question. You mentioned you had a loss of about $800,000. That is really that's done. I mean, we can't get any of that back, can we? I mean, once we get up to normal, we're just getting to normal. There's not going to be any kind of a snapback effect where we're going to get more revenue than we would. under a normal situation?
It's a good question. So the 800,000 is the forecasted loss for this year. So that's taking into consideration events that will take place between now and the end of this year, and cost factors and so forth all put in. But I don't think you're going to see a spring load of additional revenues beyond what otherwise would have been normal. Yeah, I think you're going to see a demand out there that currently exists that's growing from people that want to get out of the house and they want to be able to go to see sports and entertainment. I think that's going to be a real benefit for the promoters and producers of the events. It's certainly going to be a big benefit for us and for the county to be able to have those additional events coming in. First 2 years, I think, is going to be above average in the way of events and revenues. I think expenses are going to trend about where they've been, maybe a little bit higher on the labor side, especially on changeover labor and lower wage labor. We're seeing that we may have to pay a little bit more to get people to come back to work, especially between now and September with the additional stimulus money that's being paid out. Many of the comments have been that they're getting more money to stay home than they get to work. So I think we will probably see a little bit higher expenses, but I think you'll see a lot higher revenues, at least in the first 2 years.
I might be wrong on the time frame, but we had a restaurant, or you guys had a restaurant going in the job. Is that still moving forward, or with everything that happened today?
The leases, in fact, I have the 3 copies of the leases here for the county exec or the deputy county exec to sign. It was approved by the legislature. The start date is on or about July 1st, so it's coming up real soon. It's the Albany Stadium Restaurant and Bar, and that's going to take the place of Backstage Bar. They are gung-ho to get in there. It's not going to just be event nights. It'll be non-event nights also. It'll be open for lunch, which will be great for downtown. The only issue as far as their start date is the liquor license. And there seems to be a backlog of liquor license applications. So it may cause a little bit of a delay for them to open. It may not be on the 1st. Hopefully it'll be by the 15th, but it's dependent upon that issuance. And then we also have another space that used to be Dallas Hot Wieners. And so that's also a start date of July 1st. Those contracts are signed. It was approved by the legislature. And they will be opening up, I think, the first week in July. And that's going to be a Cajun seafood. It's called Ballistic Shrimp. And so all of our retail spaces will be full.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you for attending tonight, and
Sure.
Good luck for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Lisa Raimondo.
Yep.
Hello, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everyone in person.
Yes, it is nice to see everyone.
Yes.
Lisa, you have authorized an agreement with Joe Basil Chevy to purchase 5 2022 Chevy Silverado trucks.
Yes, the purchase of these trucks, we'll be replacing 5 of our Foreman's trucks. Out of those 5, 3 of them are going to be repurposed and 2 are going to be auctioned off.
Okay.
So this is an excellent purchase. It will allow our foreman to be able to actually plow when there's an emergency storm. This is also part of our capital plan. This is not a purchase with extreme winter recovery money. So this is 100% county funded.
Okay. Is there any questions?
Question.
Mr. Bergdahl.
Lisa, it's a budget amendment. What's the cost of the trucks?
The cost of the trucks are
probably buried in here.
approximately $38,000 a piece.
Okay.
Yeah. And this one is not a budget amendment. This one is actually, this is coming out of our bond. I do have several purchases this month that are budget amendments, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is there any question? Oh, Mr. Reinhardt.
Lisa, I am thinking we have to start buying electric vehicles.
Yes.
And I know that the trucks are starting to come out with electric options. Are you kind of looking at that as an option? I know that the first cost is higher, the operating cost is less. So I just, I want you to reassure me, Lisa, that you are starting to look at this as a real option, because I'm seeing more and more heavy-duty vehicles coming out that are electric options. Police cars, all kinds of things are starting to be available as battery electric.
Right.
Obviously, the duty cycle of the vehicle matters in terms of whether it could be an electric purchase, but I just want to make sure you're...
It is on our
attention to
radar. It definitely is, and we're working on the side with various electric car and truck producers to see if we can start implementing electric vehicles into some of our fleet. Right now, we only have cars that are electric, and we don't feel comfortable with a purchase of a heavy-duty vehicle yet. They're much more pricey, and we don't have the results that show that the cost-benefit ratio is there. We're hoping that there's going to be grant money available so that we can purchase one vehicle and test it out, and then use that as a test for whether or not we're going to move forward with just doing our truck fleet, our regular heavy-duty truck fleet. Plow trucks and things like that, though. When I say heavy-duty truck fleet, I'm talking about just like foreman trucks. I'm not talking about our plow trucks. The plow truck technology isn't there yet, but we are working toward research. We're working on hoping to get something in our fleet.
Yeah. Things are really moving quickly now.
Right.
Bethlehem just had a bond vote, and I sort of gave them the grant, so now all the buses, the school buses for the Bethlehem School District are going to be going forward.
Right. Yes, I know. The buses don't, well, I mean, what we have to always take into account the fact that we're using these vehicles for like pushing snow and such. So, when it comes to certain vehicles like, a truck that would be used as a light-duty trailer truck, that we would consider for sure getting electric vehicle. But again, we just don't, we don't want to make a large investment. We want to see about getting a grant for like a singular vehicle and test it out first.
Mr. Chairman?
Do you have any questions, Mr. Peter?
If there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion to move this.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Also, Lisa Raimondo, the equipment to purchase a tandem asphalt roller, amending the Public Works budget.
Yes, so this one is a budget amendment, and this is going to be paid for with state funding, extreme winter recovery money, part of our CHIPS monies. We're going to be replacing one of our rollers with this new roller. It's got a lot more power. It's a vibratory roller. It can roll both subbase and asphalt top course. So it's going to enable us to get work done much more efficiently.
Are there any questions? Motion.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. The next up is the Monroe tractor from the Public Works budget.
Yeah. So this is for the purchase of a large excavator. We have one right now, and it is one of our busiest pieces of equipment. It's something that if we have two of, we'll be able to use two simultaneously on two different jobs and allow us to be much more productive. Again, we're going to use our extreme winter recovery money to purchase this, so it is 100% state funded.
Any questions?
Motion.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And the last is the amending the Public Works budget, CHIPS funding.
Yes, so this is our yearly CHIPS award. It is in the amount of $6,271,585.97. It appears much larger than our usual award, and there are several reasons for this. Usually we get in the neighborhood of $3.5 million each year, and an additional amount of rollover that we don't spend from the previous year. This number is inflated by the fact that last year we still have not been reimbursed for $1.3 million of our last year's expenditures. So that $1.3 million is showing up in rollover right now, when in actuality, it's been spent, and we're just waiting on the state to reimburse us for it. So it's inflated about 1.3 million for that reason.
Okay.
In addition, it's also larger because the state actually gave us extra money this year. And so they increased our allotment by about $800,000, which is excellent. We did not know that that was going to happen prior to putting out our hauling and placing program. So we anticipate next year we're going to have a large rollover, and what we'll do is factor that into our hauling and placing and do more roads next year.
Great, great. Any questions, Mr. Bergdorf?
That sounds great, Lisa. I have a question, sort of a generic question, that has to do with the highway program. Seems an odd question to be asking on June 29th when it's 93 degrees. But how did you finish the year in terms of inventory of salt and sand?
So for last year, well, so right now, the way the salt and sand budget works, it's kind of like it starts in 2020 and continues on to 2021. So right now, for last year's budget, we're doing good. We actually have a fair amount, like I think 30% plus or minus of our budget left to carry us through to the end of this year. So last year, we had more snow than we had ice, and so we did a lot more plowing versus using material. So we're doing good.
Are the prices that we have annually bid, or do they hold over a period of time subject to renewal?
They're annually. They
Okay.
change annually.
So as the price, all matters construction have increased. Have salt and sand, do we know?
I haven't, no,
which
I'm
way
not
they're
plugged
going?
into the latest numbers, but I will get back to you on that.
Okay.
Because we haven't done any purchasing as of late. So I'll get back to you on that. But I do know that, so, asphalt prices definitely increased. And so that's going to be a benefit for us for the fact that we're going to have a bigger rollover next year in case those prices don't come down. The prices of our steel have increased a lot. And we've also seen that it's taking a lot longer time to get our products. So like when we're ordering a prefabricated culvert, it's, taking much longer than it should. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion if there's no other questions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Number 7, an agreement for Carver Construction Services for Country Road 402 and Country Road 404, replacement culvert in Westerlo.
Yes, so we're going to be replacing 2 culverts in Westerlo. Carver was the low bidder at $774,000. Malloy was the second lowest at only $3,000 more, so it was quite a tight bid. The next, Reifenberg, was, let's see, about $100,000 more than the 2 of them. So we're going to be replacing the culverts and doing some approach work in addition.
I'd like to make a motion if there's no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Are there any other issues you can ask the Commissioner before we adjourn for the evening? I guess that's it. Motion to adjourn.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Adjourn.